Jake Bates is going to be the kicker, and I'm wondering for all of the Lions faithful out there, are you willing to continue to take a shot on Jake Bates? Has he done enough to earn more opportunities? And by that, I mean, does he earn the chance to start the season as your kicker? Place kicker and field goal or extra points. Because he did miss his only extra point.
Correct.
But he has hit from 55. He's hit from 53. He hit 4 field goals on Saturday. Obviously, he hit the game winner.
Right.
And so has he done enough for you to go into the season not having anyone else on the roster that if things fall apart or if he loses confidence, that you're okay with Jake Bates on a Super Bowl contending team?
I'm okay with it for right now. And look, if he F's up, then there are plenty of kickers on the street that are decent. Okay. Hopefully, who was that guy they had that was awful? Ryan Soto or some I forget his name.
Yep.
He was awful.
That's why nobody remembers.
I know.
But Dan Campbell did talk, obviously, after the game. He was asked about Jake Bates. And there's a couple of quotes that I think were pertinent in regards to, especially this is where coaches try and find out as much as they can about players. When you don't have a great track record or resume, they're looking for anything to say, is this guy a competitor? Can he handle pressure? Let's go with number 4. This is Dan Campbell talking about Jake Bates. So, yes, it's not
He's
kicking.
a good foaler.
Well, but you're always trying to find, is a guy a competitor? How does he carry himself in, out, and around in the community? How does he act? Does he have confidence? Because as a kicker, like, they're a strange breed. And I've talked about it a lot, but you got to have a guy that has, when you talk about short-term memory in the NFL, you could have a guy that goes out there and totally just shanks a kick. And then you may be, because you can't make a change mid-game, you may call upon that same guy to go out there and kick a game winner. And we've seen both happen, where a guy just can't get out of his own head and can't seem to find anything in between the uprights, whereas there's others where they do shank a kick and then they come back and they drill a 55-yarder. And so is Jake Bates of that guy. And Dan Campbell is trying to find every possible way to rationalize in his mind that, yes, we're going into this season with a guy that we believe has confidence in his ability no matter what the situation. And the second cut is kind of where I've talked about, even if he starts the season as a kicker, it doesn't mean he's arrived. Greg, can we go with number 5 from Dan Campbell? Greg, number 5. Even the best kickers are going to miss some kicks.
Oh, yeah.
And so going into the season, obviously against the Rams week 1, you want to have a guy that you have confidence in, but also know that he's not going to be perfect. And I still ask everyone, is he the guy that you want lining up in a situation in the preseason like he did in Kansas City, but whether it's the Rams, it's San Francisco at the end of the year, it's Green Bay in Green Bay, it's Chicago in Chicago, that you believe you got a better odds to make it than miss it?
Look, especially, you mentioned on the road in Chicago and Green Bay, they have, I believe, 14 of their games are indoors?
Yes, 3 of them are outside.
And look, I mean, I know it's not the same.
One's going to be outside in San Francisco, so weather shouldn't be too much of an issue.
I know it's not the same thing, but he has performed at Ford Field pretty damn well.
Yes, he has.
Granted, it was
with the Panthers.
Yes. So he
also kicked a nice. That was a 53 yards when he was playing against the Giants, and that was in the rain.
Yes.
Not grass, but it was turf.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other question was asked of Dan Campbell in regards to, will this change your in-game management? It's going to be a process.
Yeah.
And right now they know he's good from 53. They know he's good from 55. Maybe, this would be weird, maybe he's good from plus 35 because he did miss the extra point.
Correct.
And it just needs to be long kicks. He's just got a big leg.
Yeah. By the way, the kicker I was trying to come up with, his name is Ryan Santoso. I know. I was close.
Toast.
All right. We have some ticket texts that are somewhat interesting. Is John saying the kickers are important?
If they're going to win the game for you, yes, in that moment. It is a necessary evil.
I say cut Jake Bates and just punt or go for it on fourth down. With Campbell coaching the team, we're just about there already anyway. That's Joe in a car. Stoney is stoned. Stoney needs to master Bates's name.
You did mess it up. You called him Jake Betts.
That's right.
So when you master
that's
Bates's name.
Mm-hmm. And this is why I was happy to see Stoney retire. Dude is an old creep. Come on, Stoney.
Yes, that's probably in reference to your, when I said K1, the insanity that followed that.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Do you think it will change how Dan Campbell, if Jake Bates is the kicker, will it change his in-game management?
Yeah, I think a little bit. Because if he knows he has a guy who's going to make it from 60, he might go for it. I mean, or he might not go for it.
Yeah.
He might kick. He might kick.
And he might not tell you after the game.
Exactly.
that was priceless.
Which is why we love Dan Campbell. 97 won the ticket.
Hey, the summer driving season, we're right in the thick of it right now, and we've seen this combination. Increased traffic, big trucks, motorcyclists, and construction. It all contributes to the fact that summertime in Michigan has more accidents than any other season of the year. And if you've been injured in an accident, injury attorney David Femininio and his team are ready to help you right now. David will never take a fee until he wins your case, and you can speak to David personally right now by calling 855-65-CRASH, or you can always go to the website, getdavidgetpaid.com. That number, 855-65-CRASH, or on the web at getdavidgetpaid.com.
Give me 1 second here. All right, here we go. Here's one. The Costa and Jansen with Heather show is brought to you by BetterHelp. When life gets stressful, it's important. Starting over. The Costa and Jansen with Heather show is brought to you by BetterHelp. When life gets stressful, it's more important than ever to make sure you make time for yourself and prioritize your self-care. As a new mom, I know that making time for yourself can be tough, but it's essential to feel your best. For me, I make sure I can get to the gym. Working out is my self-care non-negotiable. For you, it could be hitting the gym, getting outside for a walk, or maybe it's therapy. Therapy can be helpful for everyone, whether you're a new mom like me or dealing with basic everyday stress. Therapy is a great way to improve your mental health, and it can help you develop healthy ways to manage stress and difficult situations. If you've been thinking about therapy but don't know where to start, check out BetterHelp. BetterHelp makes finding a licensed therapist easy. Plus, it's designed to fit into your busy schedule. It's all online and convenient and flexible. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/WXYT today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/WXYT. Number 2. Do we have time? Yep. All right. Number 2. Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. Learning how to manage and take care of yourself can be difficult, especially if you're juggling big work commitments and family schedules, but it's essential to feel your best. When you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. For me, my non-negotiable is getting to the gym several days a week. Working out helps me feel my best, and it's not just good for my physical health, it's also great for my mental health. Therapy is also a great way to boost your mental health. It's crucial to have support when life gets overwhelming, and therapy is a great tool to help manage anxiety and foster positive coping skills. And to be honest, it's just a great way to talk about your life to somebody impartial. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's online, which makes it super convenient, and it's designed to fit into your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/WXYT today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/WXYT. That felt long. Good. One more. Okay, here we go. Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. We all know life can get stressful. When your schedule gets backed up with family commitments and work projects, it's more important than ever to make time for your self-care. As a mom of 2, I've learned that when I make time for activities like hitting the gym or taking a walk, I can be best for those who need me most. I know it can be tough to make time for yourself, but fitting in your non-negotiables like therapy can be so important. If you think therapy is only for somebody who has experienced major trauma, you're wrong. Therapy can be beneficial for anyone dealing with everyday stresses. It gives you the tools and techniques needed to live a more confident and emotionally balanced life. If you've been curious about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. They've made finding a licensed therapist convenient and easy. Everything is right online, and it's designed to fit into your busy schedule. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/WXYT today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/WXYT.
Two 248-539-9797 is the telephone number. Let's go to Spencer in Birmingham. You're 97 on the ticket.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Spencer.
Last time I actually spoke with you, Stoney, it was 2 days before your retirement, and I was the person that deemed you the godfather of sports radio. And my friends tell me, because you probably can't remember, along with Jansen, I'm a federal officer, and I thanked you for allowing me to get my degrees as I was studying for my master's, my PhD in criminology. I told you how much you were instrumental in allowing me to listen to you and study at that time. And when I deemed you the grandfather of sports radio, my friends say, now that I've returned this weekend, they say during Mike's shows when he guest hosts, he's referred to as the grandfather of sports radio. And I just remember Jansen laughing and thanking me for giving you that name.
Yes. He does look like the grandfather of sports radio. Yes.
But and I mean it totally as a compliment, not regarding his look or his age, but just meaning, his 30 or so years being one of the forefathers of actual, radio talk, and meaning so much to so many years.
Thank you, Spencer. That's very nice of you.
The amazing part is he didn't start till he was 50.
But and again, thanks so much for what you did for my career, and I'm so grateful I gave you that. And to hear you refer to as a grandfather, it's not regarding your age, it's just regarding how much you meant to all of those after you, and Terry Foster and Art Regner and Pat Caputo. All of you created the Costas and the Riegers of today. And obviously,
so you're responsible for Rieger.
It's all my fault.
It's all your fault. But I wanted to say, and this is what John, I so love you, my friend. John often says, you can't teach speed, you can't teach a strong arm, and you can't teach a gifted genetic strong leg. And we're talking about a guy, meaning our current Bates kicker, who didn't obviously kick in college to any significant degree. And you're talking about a guy who proved himself in the most unlikely of stages with the Michigan Panthers. And obviously, he's not currently a Gary Anderson. He's not an Adam Vinatieri. He's not a Robbie Gold. He's even not a Jason Hanson. But what that guy showed Saturday is that with the proper coaching that Detroit has, with that culture that they'd have, that they currently exemplified last year, with the faith they've proven in him by giving that 2-year contract, this guy proves in another year he's going to be a gem in the same way that after Goff was traded for, and he was referred to in his first year as Goffle, and now people are chanting his name and saying the best thing that happened to us was for them to trade for quarterback Goff. They're going to be saying this in another year after Bates proves himself with the current coaching he's getting, and after the future year I predict he's going to have. And again, I'm being prophetic, and I know most people may laugh at my prediction, but what he showed, those stones, and I say that in reference to Stoney, but those stones that guy demonstrated in that last kick to win what is a meaningless preseason game, that erased what he failed to do in that Michigan Panther playoff game by missing that kick. And he's not about a 65-yarder or a 60-yarder, but he said, guess what? I got the leg to do in the future what I'm going to do routinely at 35 and 40 and 45 yards, because a guy that can kick 30 and 40 and 45 yards can do that all day, but he can never be taught to kick 60 and 65 yards, which this guy will do in 2 years with the coaching that Lions staff will give him and the support his teammates will give him. And again, Jansen, loved you at Michigan, loved you as a great Washington Redskins offensive player, and with a few years that would have been injury free, you would have been a Hall of Fame player, and one that Michael Strahan, a Hall of Fame player, said was his worst player to face against. That, in my mind, puts you as a Hall of Fame player that has the best sack producer coin you as his worst opponent to face. And Stoney, again, man, I bless you because I.
Oh,
thank you, Spencer.
I liked where he was going.
I was waiting for my turn.
I know. Yes.
Like, okay.
Yes.
Hi, Spencer.
Heather Park.
Yeah,
yes. With Heather Park.
What are you going to say?
I was waiting for
Spencer's a nice guy.
I was waiting for the Jaws music.
My goodness.
What were we talking about?
You guys, pretty tragic story. A 7-year-old boy is in the hospital after he was shot in the head while he was asleep in his Detroit home early this morning. So police say the boy is in stable condition. So that's the great news. But he may still need surgery because the bullet is lodged in his head.
Oh my goodness.
It was the result of a drive-by shooting. So right around 5 a.m., the boy, like I said, was asleep in the front room of the home when somebody shot into the house. There were 11 people inside, including 8 children. Okay. The suspected shooter or shooters fled in an unknown vehicle. It's believed that the shooting was a result of a conflict between one of the adults in the home and obviously
somebody
this
outside,
other person. Yeah. It's also being investigated that perhaps it was gang related. Everything is under investigation. An 86-year-old woman in Ann Arbor was killed over the weekend after being struck by a vehicle. The crash occurred early Saturday morning in the area of Dexter and M14. The driver, a 22-year-old from Ann Arbor, stayed at the scene, is cooperating with police, and everything is under investigation. Happened really early, right around 12:30 on Saturday morning. So Taylor Swift isn't quite ready to put her nearly 2-decade-long beef with Kanye West to bed. So she originally released a track. I don't know how much you guys follow Taylor. I know you got daughters, so maybe you are a little bit aware of this.
I might be out of loop on this one.
She released a track called Thank You, Amy on Tortured Poets Department. And the letters are capitalized, the K, the I, and the M, which is taking a shot at Kim Kardashian.
Oh.
It's so Kim is in capitals, but she just released a live version of the song and reworked the title. It's still called Thank You, Amy, but the Y and the E are now capitalized.
Oh, so thank you, Yee. Yay.
Or Yay. Yeah.
However you say that.
I think
name.
Who knows? I think it's Yay for Kanye.
Yeah.
But whatever. Anyway, so it's taking a shot at him. And anyway, you can go find the new version on our website. So it's still going on. The beef still exists.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah. If you're a fan of Ludacris, you can go and stay in his mansion.
Oh, really?
For $4. Yeah.
$4?
Yeah. Yes, pretty cool. He just teamed up with Booking.com to open his estate in Atlanta for 2 nights, September 3rd to the 5th for $4.04. That's the area code. And it says during the stay, guests will meet Ludacris himself, have a splash-filled backyard barbecue, enjoy a gourmet dinner at one of his favorite French restaurants, and basically just live the fantasy. But it's first come, first serve. So you have to go on Booking.com. It starts August 20th. It's going to be over in 2 seconds. August 28th is when you can go online. Four guests.
And what's the dates that you're allowed to be there?
September 3rd to the 5th. Are you available?
That's a quick turnaround.
I know it's very quick.
I'd have to see. I don't know. Is that a weekend or
no? You'd have to take off, or
I'd have to see if Stoney's available.
I'm sure. No, not only that.
Maybe we could do it live from down there.
I'm saying, I'm sure Ludacris has pretty good equipment that you'd be able to. I'm talking about to do a remote broadcast. See, it's not always me.
Most of his movies are, PG or PG-13, right? Maybe it's violence, but I don't know. You're talking about his equipment.
His recording equipment?
Yes.
I'm guessing he's talking about.
Yes, exactly. So you can plug in a Comrex into his studio and boom, you're there.
Great sound. It would sound amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sound better than ever, John.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Finally, the Democratic National Convention kicks off today in Chicago, and you can make some bets on it if you'd like. You can bet on which celebrity will make an official appearance. Long list of celebrities to bet on. Also, you can bet on Beyonce songs. It looks like whoever made this betting, I don't even know what you call it, sheet, is betting that Beyonce will perform. Mm-hmm. That's not a given, but there's bets on what song she will perform, if Kamala will dance with her, what color shirt or dress she's going to wear. So there's lots of things you can go and make bets on. You better do it quick, though, if you're going to.
Oh, I know. Hey, come on. Kid Rock at one, Beyonce another. Mm-hmm. I've heard rumors that Bruce is going to show up.
He's on there.
Yeah, I know.
Mm-hmm. Taylor Swift is on here.
Yeah, exactly.
George Clooney.
Yeah.
Lady Gaga.
Who's the Democratic version of Hulk Hogan?
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Oh.
He's on the list.
Dana White was also at the Republicans, so we need a commissioner of a sport. But I don't know who that would be. But yeah. Adam Silver, maybe? I don't know. Who knows? It's the whole I can't wait till all this stuff is over. November, whatever, the day after the election can't come soon enough, but then again, no matter what side wins, it's going to be hell either way. Ugh. God.
It's a positive outlook.
Yeah, I know. Well,
I'll be back next segment.
Yeah, I'm being realistic, unfortunately. All right, thank you very much, Heather.
You're welcome.
97 won the ticket.
Okay, the last one. Ready? The Costa and Jansen with Heather show is brought to you by BetterHelp. As a mom of 2 kids, one thing I've learned is that in order to be my best self, I have to make my self-care a priority. Finding time for myself can be really difficult, but I make sure I can stay active several times a week. Whether that's getting to the gym or taking my kids for a walk, that's my non-negotiable. When life gets crazy, how do you make yourself a priority? Maybe you find time to hit the gym as well, or maybe it's a therapy day. Therapy is a great way to manage stress and anxiety. Therapy can provide tools to help you learn positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. And it helps empower you to be the best version of yourself. Fitting therapy into your schedule is easy with BetterHelp. It's entirely online and it's designed to be convenient and flexible. Never skip a therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/WXYT today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/WXYT.
248-539-9797. Tigers win the game 3-2 in 10 innings. They are the champions of the Little League Classic. They won the series with the Yankees 2-1. It was really cool, the whole thing.
It was from start to finish.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, obviously, it was exciting that the Tigers won in extra innings, but you start with the national anthem, what was amazing by a 13-year-old that just belted it out, and then you go with the first pitch. That's the relay all the way in from outfield with the Little Leaguers. The announcements of both rosters, starting rosters, it just was fun.
We have some ticket texts.
Oh, boy.
And as you can imagine, as we like to say, maybe these are texter on caller crimes.
Oh.
Shut this guy up. This is our buddy Spencer. Jesus, Spencer, we get it. Jeez, Spencer, get a room. How much did John have to pay his neighbor to call into the show?
I don't live by Spencer.
Can we please have this entire segment back? That's from Tom, Greg, and Metro Detroit. The last caller made me long for Mr. Positive. Okay.
Well, I mean, his point, if we can, get past all of the other
platitudes,
yes, was that, in a year's time, could we look back on this when we look back on Dallas right now with Brandon Aubrey, who was a soccer player? Nobody had ever heard of him. And all of a sudden he comes on the scene and he's a Pro Bowl kicker, one of the best kickers in the NFL.
See what he did this weekend?
No.
66 or 67?
I heard about it. Yeah, I didn't see it. Could we look back in a year's time and Jake Bates is being talked about in a similar fashion? Because he does need more time. He does need more opportunity and reps. The only way you get that is by being on a roster and getting those opportunity and reps.
And, it's weird because he went through I forget if it was week 1 or week 2 of training camp where he was not very good and people were saying, maybe we got to go get a kicker.
Well, and we were there for some of those, and there were some misses. There were also some great makes, and you're looking at it going, and he's right. You can't coach guys to be able to kick 65-plus yards. Like some guys can, some guys can't. You can't coach a guy to run a 4.2 40. Some guys can, and maybe you can make a guy from a 4.29 to a 4.23 with technique and some skill work, but you're not going to take a guy that's 4.8 and make him 4.2. You're just not in the 40-yard dash. So his point is you got a guy with a strong leg. They don't come along very often. Now, maybe on some of the shorter distances and maybe when the lights are brightest, maybe he doesn't have it. Well, we don't know.
Right.
And so we got to find out. And the lights were a little bit bright in Kansas City because it was a game-winning kick
on the road.
But again, all of those opportunities, while he can use that as experience, all those numbers are wiped clean. And you're going to start off 0-0, made 0, attempted 0 when they play the Rams, and that's when it's going to matter most.
So I assume everybody's cool with Bates being the kicker.
We haven't heard anybody say no.
All right. Also on Saturday, we saw Hendon Hooker play a really good second half.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't start the game, and Sudfeld, statistically, I thought he played better than his stats, but still, Hooker was significantly
clearly the better one, yeah.
Yes. Are we okay with having a rookie as your backup quarterback? Because he didn't play last year, so he is a rookie. He is a rookie.
I like the fact that he went through his progressions. Even on his touchdown run, he was looking to throw the ball up until the last second. Everything broke down, and then he made something happen. Mm-hmm. I like the fact that he is a completely different style than Jared Goff. So if he goes in the second half or the third to fourth quarter, whatever it is, he's going to present a different option for the Detroit Lions and Ben Johnson to be able to call plays that whoever the defense is has not focused on, is not ready for. And so that uniqueness can get you out of a game. It can get you a win. It can make him look really good because they're not prepared for it. They're prepared for a statue at quarterback.
Right.
And so if he can go through progressions, if he can do some of those things, and then also be able to get outside the pocket, extend plays, maybe pick up some yardage, you can use him in the run game. All of those things add to the fact that it's going to be hard to defend him when you've prepared for one quarterback all week long. So I like the fact that, because if Sudfeld goes in, it's not a whole lot different than Jared Goff, just a heck of a lot worse.
Right. He does have more mobility than Goff.
So do you.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe that might be a little facetious.
By the way, speaking of Jared Goff, let me ask you this. Did you, during the Tigers game, my daughters and I thought we heard the Jared Goff chant.
Oh, really?
In Williamsport. But then on social media, some people said they heard it, but some people thought they were just saying they were chanting Aaron Judge. And if you have a predisposed, notion of what you're hearing, you're always going to hear that, which is like those misrepresented lyrics that.
Right. Yeah. People say something, and that's all you hear.
Right.
And then they say something else, and you're like, oh, now I hear that.
Yeah. But I thought when I heard it, I thought it was Jared Goff. But anyway. I digress. So we're in agreement here. 248-539-9797. Bates should be the kicker, game one, and Hooker should be the backup quarterback, game one. Okay.
QB2.
Here we go. Wide receiver. If you believe it's a problem, how many wide receivers do they keep? 4 or 5? And who is wide receiver number 4? Because we seem to be in agreement right now because of all the other weapons that they have, especially with Laporte at tight end and Gibbs wherever he's going to line up. St. Brown's 1, J-Mo is 2, Caleb Raymond is 3. Who's 4? Is it DPJ? Technically the incumbent or the favorite going in to take Josh Reynolds' place, or Isaiah Williams, who showed a lot on Saturday afternoon. Isaiah Williams was targeted 8 times, 6 receptions, 71 yards. He also rushed the ball in a reverse. He had 11 yards on 1 carry. He also had a punt return, 3 of them for 41 yards.
Let me ask you this question. Mm-hmm. If you're one of 31 GMs not named Brad Holmes, and let's just say they go into it with 3 receivers, and they cut DPJ and Isaiah Williams. You're one of 31 others. Who gets the first call? They're both available.
Depends what kind of if you have a team you think it can contend, you might go DPJ.
Because you're on a team that thinks they can contend.
And so are the Lions.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, I know. But
so if you look at it from that angle, I mean, because you're trying to look at it, okay, because if they cut Isaiah Williams, he doesn't make the final roster, then
do you think he'll get claimed or
be available for the practice squad? Because that could be a route that you want to go. I don't know that you want to take that risk because I do think he gets picked up. And I think he gets picked up quicker than Donovan Peoples-Jones does.
I you know what? I tend to agree with you because there are teams. I mean, Kansas City maybe could use another receiver, right?
I think there's a lot of teams that would be looking for wide receiver 4 or 5 because typically a team will keep 5 receivers. Last year, the Lions kept 5 receivers coming out of training camp. So if you're going to keep 5, maybe you keep them both. And this is more of a debate of who's going to be active against the Rams versus who's going to be inactive.
Right.
Instead of who makes the team and who doesn't make the team.
The only reason I mentioned Kansas City was because there have been some talk that, guys like Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney might get cut.
Well, Kadarius Toney can't catch a cold.
I understand that. That's why I said that. Yes. And there's, Worthy and, Watson. And who knows with Rice might get suspended for a couple of games or whatever.
Rashee Rice, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Because of his extracurriculars?
Yes, indeed.
It's been a number of them this offseason.
Yes, there have been. All right, 248-539-9797.
Hey, well, I'm going to be there on Thursday and Friday, and I'm talking about the Circa Resort and Casino. And I don't know if Costa's going to wear the Cabana outfit or not. I don't know if he's going to dive into one of the, 3 levels, 6 pools that make up Stadium Swim, but I think I want to see if that's a possibility. You can also catch all the biggest games at a viewing experience built for sports fans. I just mentioned there's one of 6 pools to choose from on 3 different levels. And you got a great view of the massive 40-foot tall high-definition screen That's Stadium Swim. Maybe we get Costa on the big screen. It's America's favorite place to watch football since it's football season. You got swim-a-bars, Insta-ready selfie walls, and one nonstop party every single day. Score your perfect game day spot with cozy day beds, private cabanas, or grab a lounge at the center of the action. You can reserve your spot today. It's 365 days of sports poolside, located at Circa Resort and Casino in downtown Las Vegas on Fremont Street. Stadium Swim, all sports, all seasons, might even be all Costa. Book your spot today at circalasvegas.com.
Lions win it 24-23. Saturday, Ford Field, the Pittsburgh Steelers come to town. And I would assume, because they have not looked real good thus far, that both Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, you would think, would be playing, right?
I would think so. I mean, they're trying to figure out who, their starter is going to be.
I know.
And who can find a rhythm with the offense. Is Russell Wilson completely fallen off a cliff? Did that happen in Denver? Did that happen in Seattle when they decided to move on from him? Mm-hmm. And Justin Fields, he has shown flashes at times when he was in Chicago.
It's
but
the Lions at times.
It hasn't happened yet in Pittsburgh. Now it's, obviously new offense, new system,
correct,
new receivers, new everything. But
your boy's their offensive coordinator.
Who's my boy?
Arthur Smith.
Oh, yeah. It hasn't clicked for either guy yet.
No.
And obviously the regular season is rapidly, for them, approaching.
I know.
Can't get here fast enough for us.
Our station Steeler, Slappy, the Hatchet Man, is not very happy with his football club right now.
Yeah, probably not.
No. Tigers yesterday, the Little League Classic last night, win it 3-2. And you saw this weekend, Torque came back up Saturday, had a really good Saturday, didn't do much yesterday. But the fact of the matter is, Sweeney came up, he got one hit. He looks like he can field really well at shortstop. Jace Young hit, got a big hit last night too as well. And you look at this team, and they played a lot of young guys last night. Let me tell you something. I mean, you look at, Carpenter 26, Meadows 24, Green and Sweeney 23, Young 23, Torkelson 24, Carpenter 26, Vierling 27, Rogers 29. I'm sure I'm missing somebody as well. But they had a lot of guys who were playing who are young players. And I think we're seeing firsthand, whether we like it or not, what the plan is. And for the next 6 weeks, you're going to see a lot of these young kids. Now, Malloy got sent down because Riley Green came back. So this is what we got. And I think it's important for the front office and for AJ to figure out what they have going into 2025. And the fact is that, although they've played well lately, they won 6 out of 7. Their next 10 are against the Cubs, White Sox, and Angels. They should win 6 of those minimum, but it's not going to be as easy as we think because of the pitching situation. They only have 2 starters,
right? And
Scuba and Montero, and their group efforts, as AJ calls them, have been really good. The ERA for those guys have been when they have the non-starter games, have been 2.5 like the last 3 weeks or whatever. So that's good. But do you have faith in this? I do. And it's way too early.
It's early.
I like what I've seen early. Put it that way.
So do you think they've developed a core? The goal of this year was to develop a core, and when that core was available, they would start adding, auxiliary pieces around them to take a shot at playoffs and hopefully more in the coming years. So do you think, as of now, when you look at Meadows, Green, Carpenter, Keith, Torkelson, Young, Sweetie, Rogers, they have a core?
I'm not sure Sweeney's part of the core yet. It's a little too early.
He was just on the roster.
Yeah, I know. I know.
You could pick and choose some of those guys.
Yes, and look, they want the core to expand to Clark and McGonigal in 2 years, probably.
Yeah, but
2 to 3 years. But as
I don't want to wait 2 more years before we could add to the core.
Correct. So, yes, your answer is, I'd like to see them spend and get, 2 arms and 2 bats if they can. I'm not being unrealistic. They're not going to go get somebody like Juan Soto. But they can, they should build to this core. Right now, the kids are all right, as the Who would say, but we'll see how it goes anyway. By the way, pass on a little sad news here. Phil Donahue passed away this morning.
Oh.
88 years old, the pioneer of, talk shows. And,
Yeah.
he begat, like Maury Povich and all those. He was like the Sally Jesse
Raphael.
Yeah,
yes.
all those. So, yeah.
The late Phil Hartman did an amazing impression of Phil Donahue.
Oh, you're
back
right.
in the day on SNL.
Yes.
So good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You are correct. How you doing, Gator?
All right. How is everybody?
It's doing pretty well. Pretty good.
All right.
Enjoy the Lions game on Saturday?
I did.
Good.
I did. Enjoyed the Lions game Saturday. Enjoyed the Tigers game last night.
Mm-hmm.
Excited to have your partner back?
Yes.
Doug back in studio today.
Yeah. Well, it puts me back in my role. I appreciate that. I appreciate Stoney coming out Saturday and leading the way for us. And a wonderful dream cruise.
It was. I had a good time out there, actually. It was good. Very
Cool.
good. Yeah.
It wasn't as crowded as I thought.
Oh, no.
Do you think the
What was
weather
it?
played into that?
I'm sure the weather played
Yeah.
a role. Once it rains, and if you've got a 1970
Yeah.
Challenger convertible, you
Sweet
probably
ride.
don't want to bust that out, But,
Or a 2021 Ram that's driving down Woodward. Which I had my rules for Dream Cruise.
What's wrong with the
Stoney doesn't like,
2021 Ram?
Stoney doesn't like.
It's not a class. For the Dream Cruise, you want to see all the real cool cars. I don't want to see anything really
The
modern.
street's not shut down though.
Right, what if
I
they have to
know.
go
Everyone can
somewhere?
drive.
Tough. There should be an R.
Maybe it was a black 21 Ram that's a diesel.
No,
Like,
I
and,
wasn't.
and you just you're,
Okay.
because you got somewhere to go.
So get out. So don't use Woodward.
So don't-
But there's no other roads to use. They're all shut down with construction.
No, you can get around Woodward. I mean,
Oh, come on.
I was like, look, if you want to ride in on the Dream Cruise because you want to see the cars up close.
Yeah.
Because if you're standing on the side of the road, they're by you like that. Now, if you're in the
cruising
lanes, you
with
can
them.
actually see them for a while. And,
Yeah.
I didn't have as much of a problem with that as
Yeah,
I like the
elitist.
cool.
Yeah.
I like the
But
cool.
he was
No, it's
getting
not
ready
elite.
he was getting ready for his black tie event.
That's true.
No, it's not like. Hold on a second.
But he wasn't alone. There were, I would say
Yes.
there's a vast majority of people called in and felt the same way because that's what people want to do.
But
They
it's
wanna see-
always like that.
Yeah, I know.
I know because it used to be a
Okay.
classic car extravaganza,
Right.
And then it became really what it is now is a celebration of the automobile. So like when Stoney initially said it, before you started putting caveats on it, the second he said it, I'm like, so that Ferrari that's right there in the turnaround, you don't want that Ferrari there. And then
That's
Stoney
not
said, well, wait a
classic.
minute. Well, no, you think it's cool.
When you
cars.
get onto Woodward, there like in Pontiac, there should be an arbiter says, your
You're
car's-
cool enough,
You're
you're not
cool
cool
enough.
enough.
So now Stoney wants there to be the bouncer at the club with
Yeah.
with the checklist of
Not
cars that are
everybody can
acceptable.
hover
And
in
I'm
their-
sorry, your
in
car
their
is
Yeah.
not
helicopter.
acceptable.
Give me the '66 Galaxy 500.
Well, that's a classic car. That should go there. But if somebody's in the 2021,
I don't need to see the
Dodge
Honda.
Ram.
I don't need to see the Honda Accord driving down Woodward on
what
the
if
Dream
Jessica
Cruise.
Alba was in the Honda Accord?
Well, then it would be a cool. No, it wouldn't be a cool car. It'd be a hot car.
Oh, see, so then you'd let it go. So, the arbiter.
Doug, would you like to chime in at any point?
Nope, I'm all good.
I think look, Stoney brings. I mean, if there's anybody who's the arbiter of cool, it's Stoney.
Oh,
Stone,
I mean,
we're
we
so
acknowledge.
screwed.
the cool gatekeeper here.
Yeah.
The guy who matches his headphones
I
to
know.
his T-shirt. It's very
yes,
impressive.
I know. Violet on violet on violet. There's a lot of purple going on over there.
Exactly. All right. So, what are you guys going to
Lots of
discuss
Lions,
today?
champ and chump. Got some stories from the vacation, so
Oh, all right.
should be fun.
All right. Carson Anderson next. I'll see you tomorrow. 97 won the ticket.
Well, hello, Carson Anderson here on 97.1 The Ticket. And happy football season. We just went through the last Saturday without college football. We'll have football, real football, between now and basically February. So fire up, everybody. And it feels football weather outside today. A little bit cooler. It's got that crisp feeling. Football is in the air, and I'm ready to go. How are you, Scott?
All right. It definitely feels like football.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to make a car choice today. Was today going to be nice enough? No. A little cooler to have the top down on a vehicle. So it definitely feels like football.
Yeah.
Even the dog barking outside, it had a football sense to it.
It becomes football season. I mean, that first week 0 of college football, it's like this little tease. And there's one good game. Georgia Tech and Florida State is a decent game. And then you get a lot of New Mexico State versus Holy Cross type of matchups. But whatever, it's football, and these games count. And the Lions, of course, just played a game that doesn't count over the weekend, Saturday at Kansas City. And that was something. This morning, it felt like all ESPN wanted to talk about was the around the back pass. And we will get to that coming up today a little bit later on. But man, of all the questions that we had going into the preseason, many of them aren't going to get answered because the starters aren't playing. But some of them are starting to get answered. Hendon Hooker and Jake Bates in particular are starting to answer the question. Jake Bates, consistency is the thing, and that won't be played out till overtime. I mean, he did miss an extra point. Hendon Hooker, he's playing against a bunch of guys who won't be in the league. But he looks good while doing it. I don't know that he will get a chance to ever play against people who will be in the league, but his performance on Saturday warrants a start this coming Saturday, I would think, against players that are battling for spots.
Yeah, I would think so. I think Hooker should start and really kind of solidify his standing there. And really, Nate Sudfeld's playing a lot of catch up at this point. I mean, Sudfeld made let's be clear. Nate Sudfeld was better this last week than he was the previous week. All right. He definitely made an improvement. And maybe that's just with getting more comfortable with another week of practice and knowing that he was going to play. And keep in mind that he is coming back from injury and all that. That being said, he also made a couple of terrible passes. But the touchdown pass ended up being 61 yards to Caden Davis. It was a great pass. It was a great play, nicely set up, and nice. I think it was blocked by DPJ on that. And it looked great. But Hendon Hooker was the one that you came away with going, wow, with the exception of a bad exchange and maybe a misfire on his second pass of the game out in the flat, which the receiver looked like was pretty open. Beyond that, he looked really good. He looked calm, looked better and more comfortable in the pocket. Decision to take off and run, he did. He slid, listened to mama, got a slide, and overall looked really good. The touchdown run that he had, yeah, I mean, these are – you see flashes and things that he does that it's a different skill set than what our starting quarterback has, and that's okay because starting quarterback is a starting quarterback for a reason.
God, I really liked it when he gets flushed out of the pocket, keeps his eyes downfield, and is able to buy himself a little bit extra time and find a receiver. I think it was in one of the Isaiah Williams catches. He did push the ball downfield a little bit. There was a lot of check down stuff. I mean, I feel like in the preseason, if you just wanted to check down all day underneath, you probably can. There's no game planning. Running backs are wide open. Receivers on crossing routes are wide open. You could do that all the way down the field. And I think Sudfeld did a lot of it, and Hendon Hooker at the beginning did a lot of it. Then he started to push the ball downfield. Hit somebody on a slant. I can't remember who it was. Deep cut, down and in to a receiver. I mean, look, again, these aren't guys that are likely to be in the league. Got it. Understood. We all know that.
But both guys spread the ball around. It wasn't like they were just locked in on one guy. Now, Isaiah Williams had a big game, but there were a ton of receivers that caught the football and that were targeted. And when you're constantly running guys in and out of the lineup, the guys that you're trying to develop that chemistry with in practice, and how do you do that when you have this many players, this many options? You've got rotating offensive linemen coming in and out of the game and running backs, and it's it's not the ideal situation to try to figure out who your backup is going to be when there's nothing that is set in stone in front of him, except for the first unit, which you're not going to get a chance to play with, likely ever, unless it's a game situation and the quarterback gets hurt.
Yep. He won't answer all the questions in the preseason, but he is starting to make a strong case that maybe he will be capable of being a quality backup for Detroit.
He looked really good.
He did.
He looked really good.
And
which is what fans wanted to see.
You want to see it. You don't get mad at, if Hendon Hooker was the best player on the field at the end of that game, then that's what you want out of a high draft pick quarterback. It doesn't check all the boxes, but you just can't do that until you see first team defenses. And you're just not going to in the preseason. You really aren't. So 248-539-9797. We'll have a lot to talk about with the Lions game as we work our way through a recap of the weekend. I got to tell you, the Detroit Tigers have put an incredibly interesting team on the field. It's like, all right, we're opening up the window of the future. Here's what we hope it looks like. Everything's not going to work. That was a fun game last night for people who watched the Little League Classic game in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Tigers and Yankees, and Yankees, and Yankees, and Yankees. Tigers were the other team. They played a best supporting actor role. Got it. Yep, New York. They're going to get all the attention. But who won the game? Who won the game? The Detroit Tigers won the game.
You're damn right they did.
And with a lot of young players coming through. They could be fun to watch this last month and a half of the season. We will discuss them. We have our champ and chump votes. And, of course, we have open lines. 248-539-9797. Lots to recap as we take you through until 2 o'clock. Gator, you were looking for me to report back from a place I had never been to up north. I've now been to. Spent a week up north last week. I will give you my review. Also, I discovered a new spot up north. Never heard of it, never been there. And I'm like, oh, my God, this place is incredible. I texted one friend of mine about it who I thought might have been there. And he said, it's a hidden gem up north. Never had heard of it. And I'm excited because I want to go back. I don't know when I'm going to make it back because it's kind of off the beaten path for me at least. But, man, it was cool. We will get to all that as we continue here on Carson Anderson on a Monday. Our Champ and Chump nominations at 10:35. Get yours in. Phone calls, feedback, 97.1 The Ticket. Hey, it's Doug for the University of Michigan Credit Union, my new credit union. I joined the UMCU team because their team members work really hard to ensure exceptional member experiences. I had a great meeting with them, and it doesn't happen by accident. It starts at the top with great leadership, and they have exciting new news to share with you. UMCU is teaming up with University of Michigan defensive back, All-American candidate Will Johnson. He's a possible Big Ten defensive MVP, and you can score a big offer right now, UMCU's MVP checking account. It's an unbeatable offer. MVP checking from the University of Michigan Credit Union gives you a chance to intercept your debt by becoming a member and opening an MVP checking account. Set up direct deposit, transfer your existing loans from another financial institution, and bam, just like that, you get 2% off your current interest rate. This is huge because 2% savings can, start to add up real quick. Intercept your debt and become a member today. Just visit umcu.org. Some restrictions apply. Visit website for full details. Insured by NCUA, University of Michigan Credit Union, proud partner of Michigan Athletics. There you go. Skill set that he brings to the table. The Lions try and sort out a bunch of questions in the preseason, many of which aren't going to get answered because, quite frankly, there are very few players that are going to get significant playing time playing in the preseason. At least the plan is not to have players get significant playing time, but we know how this works. You go into the season with a plan, and then bam, injuries hit, and suddenly a guy that you saw in the preseason get a lot of reps is playing in a regular season game that matters, and those players get to be counted on. One of them we hope not to see this year is Hendon Hooker. But I have to admit, I feel a little bit better about him as the backup quarterback than I did going into the preseason. And you as well.
Yeah, I thought he's looked more comfortable. He looked more comfortable on Saturday than he did the previous game. And I like what I see from him. And he looks as good as advertised. I mean, you knew he was going to be a mobile guy. If he wanted to take off and go, he can, and he has, and he's done that well. And he's got a really nice rhythm to his throw. He doesn't rush things, and maybe the game is slowing down for him at this point. And think of it, he's only practiced for a couple weeks. Mm-hmm. You know, he's got a couple weeks of training camp under his belt, and then he has a couple weeks of mini camp practices, and that's it. So I'm happy with where he is. You look at he's a rookie, you know, and he's not going to play this year, hopefully. Because that would mean that, you know, Jared Goff got hurt, and let's hope that does not happen. So it's nice to know that they are developing, you know, a very capable backup on this roster. But he's not the only one that shined. There were a number of players that really played well on Saturday and have you know, kind of standing up a little straighter and go, ooh, well, so that guy.
Yeah, and we'll start running down those names. What's weird is, you're just like, okay, this guy looks good, but is there a spot for him?
Yeah, right.
This guy looks good, and they might try and sneak him out of the practice squad. And we'll start with Isaiah Williams, the receiver.
Yeah.
If they don't have a spot for him, and they try and get him on the practice squad, which means you have to pass through waivers, you mean to tell me no crappy team's going to pick him up? Yes, he's going to get picked up. And Brandon Joseph, the safety.
Yeah.
I mean, these are two guys. Brandon Joseph has an interception and a forced fumble in 2 preseason games. If they don't have a spot for Isaiah Williams, which is a player that you mentioned when they signed him as an undrafted free agent, and I think Brandon Joseph is another guy you mentioned when they got him a couple years ago. Like, we used to have to sit here and mine for UDFAs to make the roster and contribute. And in getting used to being in this new position with the Detroit Lions, we are in it's a completely different world when you have good players, identify what appear to be good players, promising players, maybe a better way is players that show a lot of promise.
Yeah.
These players show a lot of promise, and you have to wonder if they are simply going to not make it through to the practice squad because the Lions are playing these guys in the preseason because they don't want to play their starters. They're making plays. They're showing promise, and there's no room in the inn. It's a musical chairs game, and so to get them on a practice squad, first you have to put them on waivers, and I can't imagine those guys not getting claimed.
I have a hard time thinking that as well. And, you know, I think it was Kyle Meinke of MLive had his post game 2 of the exhibition season depth chart or roster, 53-man roster, and he listed only 4 receivers. He thinks they're going to keep 4 receivers. Mm-hmm. And the 4th that they would keep would be Donovan Peoples-Jones. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, if you're going to keep DPJ at this point, is it solely on size? Because he hasn't done a whole lot in the 2 games he's played, and given it's somewhat limited action, but he hasn't stood out. So if you're going to tell me you're going to keep DPJ over Isaiah Williams, either tells me you're only doing it you have to only be doing that for size because it's not based on production of what we've seen.
It could have a lot to do with practice, right? I mean, it could have a lot to do with what we don't see.
Yes.
And we're going to be at practice this week.
Yeah.
Given we'll be on the air and we won't be like charting every snap to see who stands out in practice. We'll be watching as much as we can. And there might be a little bit, he's a veteran. He'll play a different role. I mean, one of the problems Isaiah Williams has is he's a natural slot receiver.
Correct. And you've got Amon-Ra and Khalif Raymond.
Yep.
You know, and Isaiah Williams is helping himself with the return game, although he did drop a return, but he also had 2 punt returns for 19 and 20 yards. Mm-hmm. And the 20-yarder was the one at the end of the game, which basically got him into field goal range.
Yep.
And then they had a couple plays after that. But with Brandon Joseph, Mikey had listed his defensive backs. I think there were 10 defensive backs total that he had on the roster. And I was going in my head before I saw the list. I'm like, okay, this guy. And it came up, and I had 10, and Joseph was going to be my 10th. He had the same 9 that I would have had, but his 10th was C.J. Moore instead. Mm-hmm. Now, C.J. Moore has been on this team for a couple of years, and he's really good at special teams, and I imagine that might give him the edge. So this might be a really important week for Brandon Joseph. I feel like keeping 4 receivers, and King, we brought this up last week. I don't think 4 is going to be the number. I think they have to keep 5, and I think Vaki on this team gives them some flexibility because he's so good at special teams, and he's going to be a running back guy as well, and he does have that defensive background that it's almost like a shh, don't tell anybody. He was a safety,
right?
And I wonder if that gives a little bit more flexibility on this team of what they're going to do roster wise to open up that 5th spot to keep 5 receivers on the team.
I think they keep 4 receivers from this current roster and get their 5th receiver outside the building. So I think they end up ultimately having 5 receivers on the team, Gator. I'm just not sure that 5th receiver we've seen play in a Lions uniform this year.
248-539-9797 to your phone calls. DJ's in Detroit, and he's on 97.1 The Ticket. What's up, DJ?
Happy Monday. Welcome back, my man.
Thank you.
How you
Thank
doing?
You very much. I'm doing good. Refreshed and ready to go.
Yeah, I am too, man. So first and foremost, I don't ever have to see Nate Dogg Sudfeld ever again. I'm good. I've seen enough. I'm straight. I think that you just made a valid point, and I agree with you 1,000%. The fact that Hendon Hooker is now practicing, he's getting reps. He's doing what you want to see. He's getting better, man. So I'm fine with him as the backup. Besides that one early rollout, he seems to throw a nice ball. It's pretty accurate. I'm good with him. Number 2, the Vaki kid is going to help us because, as we know, running backs in the NFL get dinged up, get banged up. I feel comfortable with him stepping in here and there, catching the ball. You get what I'm saying? Like I can see. I don't think he's a every down guy, but I can see how he's going to help us. And then lastly, guys, 2 more things. Williams should make this team. I definitely hope he makes this team because he can catch the ball. Like, as long as you can catch the ball, I'm good with you and get open. Lastly, you know how I am about my offensive lineman. Mm-hmm. I've been watching them, a new kid, guys. He got better last week.
He did get better.
I don't think he's I'm sticking with this one. I don't think he's a tackle because his lateral movement doesn't seem that great. But I watched it because I ain't had nothing to do this weekend. In the run game, he's dominant against those 2nd and 3rd team, and he's getting better in pass pro. He's going to help us going forward, too, in about a year. I can see it.
The Manu thing, he definitely looked better in game 2. Mm-hmm. The depth that this team appears to have now is making me more comfortable. I've had some guys banged up, but it doesn't sound like at this point that, of the starters, people should be ready to go by the regular season. Cut day is a week from tomorrow. And there are going to be names on that list that people are going to go, ooh.
It's a question I would love to ask Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes too. If you could change the roster number, what number would you make it? Because I feel like there's maybe, I don't know if it's a full handful, but might be 3 or 4 guys that are going to be really difficult decisions for this team to leave off the roster, and a couple of them might be offensive linemen. I mean, you use a draft resource to draft Giovanni Manu, and good, because I like what he's seen as well, and Sorsdahl and Mahogany. But other guys have played really well in the interim as well. And then you go out and you bring up a Jamarco Jones, and he grades out very well according to Pro Football Focus. He was one of the top offensive players they had out there. And take that for whatever it's worth, but he's another guy who's an offensive lineman, a veteran offensive lineman who's got something there, who's not likely to make this roster. And I don't know if you can sneak him on the practice squad or not. I doubt it. He'll probably be gone to another team. It's guys that are going to be. I feel like teams in the NFL are looking to see what the Lions are going to do because they know the Lions have put together a really good roster over the years. And now it's just a matter of, hey, sorry, man, the bar's full. We can't let anybody in. you're on the outside.
248-539-9797. All right, Champ and Chump. We've got a bunch of votes coming in already. We'll have our nominations today at 10:35. Here on Carson Anderson on 97.1 The Ticket. Hey, summer might be in its final days, but the savings are still hot at Sarah Chevrolet in Sterling Heights. Right now, you can lease a new Chevy Blazer for just $255 a month with only $19.99 down. You heard it right, $255 a month for 24 months on a Blazer LT front-wheel drive. Unlock the savings with your GM employee discount and Chevy lease in your household. Don't forget, Sarah Chevrolet Sterling Heights is your #1 volume Chevy dealer in Michigan. Sarah Chevrolet Sterling Heights with a guarantee the lowest price, or it's free. 17.5 in Van Dyke in Sterling Heights. Call 87-SAY-SARAH or go to saysarah.com. Together, let's drive. Came through a little bit, which is good to see. Jake Bates still has to work on consistency, obviously, given the fact that he didn't miss one, an extra point, but he is mostly passing the test. The thing about consistency is you don't show up on a Monday and say, now I'm consistent. Like, you have to do it over months.
Right.
It's months.
Well, you knocked down all the field goal attempts. That's great. But yeah, it's going to be a work in progress, and he will get more and more consistent with the more reps. It's like any other position, but this guy, it's a little different. I'm more encouraged with him because he hasn't been a football kicker all his life. So it's not all that he knows, and you might be limited with your cap on potential here. Obviously, he's got this monster leg and can kick it up to 70 yards and probably maybe even beyond. Who knows? But he needs to get the reps and get that muscle memory of what it's like just to kick between these two uprights that go way up in the air instead of into a soccer net. But he looks great so far.
All right, Champ and Chump. We have our Champ and Chump nominations, then we'll get to yours. My Champ of the Weekend is Parker Meadows, who last night went 3 for 5, had the walk-off RBI, had another hit on Friday. You just gave me a stat that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Give it for the people. What is their record?
The Tigers are 12-3 in games he's been in, and that includes one game where he's just a defensive replacement.
Yep.
12-3 in the games he's been in since he returned on the 5th of July.
Wow.
And remember, because he came in and then missed some more time. So they won those first 3 games against the Reds, and then he missed some time and came back August 3rd. And yeah, 12-3 in those games. He's been amazing.
Parker Meadows, my Champ of the Weekend. Your Champ of the Weekend is?
I'm going to go with A.J. Hinch because I don't know how he's doing it with a 2-man rotation. And this team's ERA is spectacular over like the last 20 games. And this is when we've had this 2-man rotation. They've been cobbling things together. It's interesting. We had the discussion last week. MLB came up with that proposal of, hey, we should consider having starters force them to play 6 innings. And we go through that. And some of the things you uncover is, so there's a new way of doing things we kind of saw in the last couple of years with an opener, right? You bring somebody out there, get the first part of the lineup, the top part of the lineup out early. And you shut them down, then you switch pitchers. And, at the time it was just, okay, teams had to do that because they're forced to because they missed a starter and they're just trying to get through it. The Tigers are missing 3 starters, and they're cobbling this system together, and it's working. And it's a whole other topic to get into the 6-inning thing, but it's just, I like what he's done because he's had to come up and invent a brand new strategy that isn't just once in a while. This has been for weeks. He's had to do it, and they've been great. I want to give him credit for it.
I'll give Motor City Metrics credit for this tweet. The last 14 days, the Tigers' ERA is the best in baseball.
There you go.
With, as you said, 2 starters. My Chump of the Weekend, I was struggling a little bit, and I looked over at the TV, and Get Up was on. And the graphic they had on the screen was asking the question if Patrick Mahomes' around the back pass against the Lions was the greatest play in NFL history.
What?
Yep. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I know why a lot of people do a lot of things in broadcasting, and we sit here and see people complaining about stuff we're talking about. But really, the greatest play in NFL history in a preseason game?
That's not even in the top 1,000. Honestly.
Not even close.
It's fun to see, hey, flip it behind his back and they picked up 5 yards in a preseason game. Great, whatever. Okay, hook him. Move on, next play. It's nice. And you go, oh, that's cool. And that's one of the things that makes him cool. But that's probably not even the top 100 Patrick Mahomes plays.
I feel like they caught themselves because later in the same show, they dumbed it down and asked if that was the greatest play Patrick Mahomes ever played. And I'm like, no. Greatest play he ever made. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's not. I mean, it's a preseason 4-yard game. But anyway.
So for me, it's ESPN, but I'll go for the other reason. I don't know if you know this, but the Tigers actually played a game last night. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just the Yankees. The Tigers played. But boy, did they play up the Yankees in the pregame, during the game, and when it got to extra innings and they got the run right away, boy, those announcers, oh, there it is. One pitch, it's all it took, and they're on top. Mm-hmm. And how sweet it was when Jason Dominguez, their top prospect, there's a ground ball, a base hit to left field. He scoops it up and looks like he should have, was it McKinstry running home, dead to rights. He double clutches, throws it, and it's a great throw, but he double clutched and McKinstry scores the game winner, and ESPN's like, he's safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that happened. Suck it, Yankees, and suck it, ESPN. So it's a double on ESPN today for different reasons.
Well, there you go. Champ and Chump, get your votes in for Champ and Chump of the weekend. Who should be called out for having a rough weekend? Who should be singled out for having a great weekend? Here's the feedback. My champ of the weekend is the combo of Vaki and Betts. I'm unsure if they would make the team, but now I think they are making the team. My chump is Andy Reid. Seriously, behind the back pass against the Lions backups with your starters sounds like someone is bitter about last year. Okay. Kang, you got a theory about the behind the back pass. Let's get to it. Your theory is?
Well, okay, so everything in the NFL, at least offensively, I feel like, is a setup. It's always setting up for something in the future, whether it's in that game, in the next week, in the next month. But I think at some point during this year, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are going to run that play, and he's going to fake the behind the back. He's going to pull the. They do this in basketball, where you know the fake behind the back pass, like Jason Williams. For those that remember, White Chocolate.
It looks great.
Fantastic at it. It's a highlight reel type play.
Magic used to do it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So Allen Iverson, whoever, right? Kyrie Irving. They've been practicing this play. We've seen it. The Chiefs have been practicing that play in practice a little bit for fun. Everyone thinks it's kind of for fun, whatever, and they pull it off in a real game. It's a preseason game, but it's a real game against a different an NFL opponent. They're setting this up. Watch for it at some point during this year, guys. Mahomes fakes the behind the back, and they either keeps it himself or they leak out like Xavier Worthy on the back or something. But
it's a pump fake.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone right now, ESPN, are they showing the highlight at all, guys? I don't know.
I haven't seen it. I understand showing the highlight, but
am I wrong on this one? I feel like, Andy Reid and, Nagy, they got something. They're waiting. Everyone's right now focused on it. It's like a magician. Look here, look here, look here. We'll get you later.
That's a great call. Anyway.
Misdirection.
Yeah.
Yes. Sleight of hand.
Champ and Chub votes coming in. Let's go to the next one from Marlon and Walled Lake. My champ is Hendon Hooker. He looked really good on Saturday to show me he's a clear-cut backup. My chump is Dan Campbell for not starting Hooker and going with Nate the whole first half. We've seen enough of him. Time to give Hooker more reps.
I think they needed to see more of Nate. That's why they started Nate. And I suspect this upcoming game, maybe you might see the roles reversed where Hooker starts the first half and then Nate Sudfeld gets the second half. Mm-hmm. What I might find interesting is if they're going to keep three quarterbacks, is Sudfeld the third quarterback? Do you keep him on the roster simply because he knows the offense? And if you have emergency break glass situations, that you've got somebody who at least knows the offense. The other thing we haven't seen is what does Nate Sudfeld look like if he's playing with a first unit?
Yeah.
You don't know if it looks infinitely better. But I suspect he is what he is.
We got to remember, in the second half of NFL preseason games, there's a whole bunch of guys that aren't going to be in the league. Yep. If Nate Sudfeld gets the second half this coming week, he might look great. He might. Because first half is a lot of guys that are backups and are fighting for roster spots, fighting for roles on teams. In the second half of preseason games, you're getting the guys that are barely hanging on. And so Sudfeld might look great.
Well, and Golden Tate brought this point up during the broadcast. I thought it's a great point. It's brought up every year, and every year I hear it, I'm like, that's smart. Guys, that are putting forth their efforts in these games. At this point, it's not just trying to make the Lions roster. It's putting good tape out there for 31 other teams to look at. Mm-hmm. Because, okay, maybe your road is blocked here in Detroit, and no kidding, the roster's a great roster. It's not going to be easy to make this team. It's not easy to make the 49ers team. It's not easy to make the Eagles. These are really good rosters out there in the NFL. But if you show up well enough in the preseason and you have the right attitude, teams will come calling. Okay, they're going to do the due diligence, try to figure things out, and maybe there's a relationship with coaches, and somebody calls and asks Dan Campbell, "Hey, what's this guy really like?" He's a great kid, got a good head on his shoulders. We just don't have the room for him. He'd be great, and then they find jobs elsewhere.
Hey, having a Connecticut water softener installed by CGC Water has so many benefits. This month, get a free A200 Connecticut reverse osmosis system with the purchase of a Connecticut Premier softener when you call 855-339-4242. Or visit cgcwater.com. If you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. This month, you can also save 10% off any residential job over $500 when you let CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing take care of all your plumbing needs. CGC Water, your authorized independent Connecticut dealer, 855-339-4242. Isaiah Williams making an impact for the Detroit Lions in this preseason. Does he earn a spot? Does he earn a spot? It's one of the battles that has become somewhat interesting. Is fourth wide receiver? Is there going to be a fifth wide receiver? This kid looks pretty good. I'm sure they'd love to practice squad him, but they may not have that opportunity. Okay. From Eric, the behind the back pass UFC, and made a joke of how cool Mahomes thought it was that he did that. Moments later, ESPN showed the highlights of the game featuring the behind the back pass, and then a shot of Mahomes running off the field with a finger in the air, and then the final score flash, 24-23 Lions. They're in love with their obsession with Mahomes. Yeah, I mean, look, I will tell you this. I'm uncomfortable ripping choices in broadcasting because every day people rip us for choices of what we're talking about. But to actually put the graphic on the screen, whether or not it was the best play in NFL history, I was like, oh, come on. I mean, come on. I mean, seriously.
So this is starting to bother me a little bit more than I thought. That it even should, right?
Yeah.
Who cares, right? But adding to it, Doug, because that stupid graphic you just read.
Yeah.
Apparently, so Mahomes and Kelsey said after the game, "Oh, that was improv. I was supposed to do this, but he improved and did." Dude, there's footage of you guys practicing this play during the week. Like Mahomes literally threw it behind the back in practice,